Hi guys, welcome to this new video of Node Express MongoDB Bootcamp, and in this video we are going to be creating a schema using Mongoose. And in the last video you remember that we created this default object for our nodes and we added these details to it, and we also verified it from our Mongo Atlas cloud, and these were the two objects are created. And what I'm gonna do is, first of all, I'm just going to delete these two documents from my cloud database. I want to actually create these documents by creating the schema. So currently there is no result in the nodes collection in our Mongo Atlas database, right? So I just commented this out just for reference for you guys. So I will be creating a separate file for all the schemas I'll be creating, but to start off, I'll be creating the Mongo schema directly inside it. So to create the schema, we are provided this mongoose.schema class, so we can use it with the new keyword mongoose.schema. And in this schema we can define the properties for what are the different properties needs to be added for the particular object. So since we are considering nodes, and we need to follow the nodes properties to create the schema, right? So now I'll be creating a new object, right? And then I'm just going to check all these properties are added over here. So we have the title, description, created at. So just for reference, I'm going to copy all these properties except ID, because Mongo DB will be automatically handling the IDs from now on. Okay, so I'm going to create it over here just for reference, which I'll be deleting afterwards. And the first one is the title, and we can directly write a string after this, but since we want to add few more properties to each of this key and the attribute of our schema, so we'll be creating an object after that. So here we can give it a type, and the title is of string, and we want the title to be required. If someone don't add the title, we want to throw an error. So the way we can do it is that we can add a true, but if we want to add some error message if someone misses the title, then we need to add it within the array. And the second param would be a node must have a title, right? This will be the error message to be shown. And the third property, we can have a lot of properties like the trim as well. So for now we are going to add the unique property to it, means that the two nodes can have one title, right? So this is for the title. Now let's come forward and we have the description next, and the description would be of type string again. Okay, and it's not required field, so we can leave the type only for now. Okay, so then we have this created at field, and this created at field will be of type date, and then we can have the default value to it. So the default value can be the date.now, right? And similar to the created at, we can give it updated at property, and the values would be the same, the initial values would be the same, and then the important would be of type boolean. So type would be the boolean, and the default would be false. Okay, and the last attribute we have for the nodes is the priority, right? And it's of type number because it will take integer. And for now let's not add any other property to it. So here we have created this schema, right? and I'm just verifying if these property names are same, because the logic is based upon these properties, right? So now we need to go towards and use this schema to actually generate some data. So I'm just going to delete this reference, and I'm going to have a variable. So nodes schema, I can give the variable name to anything inside it, and then I need to create a model out of this schema. So to create the model, so let's say node equals to the mongoose dot model, and it asks us to give the name to this model, and I'm going to give the name to this model node, and then the name of schema, so node schema, right? And this variable node we are going to be using for every query, for fetching the data, for filtering pagination, for getting a particular fields. And this is the final variable that we'll be using for creating anything and to trigger any kind of query. So in here I'm going to create a new document directly just to test this out. I'm not going to use the postman, but just to test directly over here. So test node equals to new node, and now this node is actually a class for us, and we can create as much objects as we want using this new keyword, right? And now I can actually pass different values to it. So I will be copying these values from here, which I already added above, right? And I'm going to paste it and uncomment. So I'm not going to pass this created add and updated add, because I've already set the default properties at the top, right? And I'm going to set the priority to 1, important is false, and although I added it default value, but let's keep it. Description is added and the title is added. So we have created this new object for the node class. Okay, now let's try to save it to the database. So test node dot save, this is the one way. There are other ways as well. So for now, let's live with it for now. So I'm going to add a log, and it's going to save that, and we can also catch if something goes wrong, it will throw an error, right? So console.error, there is an error. Okay, all right, so we are actually done with creating a schema for the node and creating its object, giving it a name to the model, and use that model to actually store it in the database, right? And now let's rerun the server, and it should actually log this thing, the log console log doc, right? So server is running, there is an error, operation nodes.insert1 timed out, the DB connection was successful actually. So there is an issue in it, that first one, I would like you to update this from required to required. There was a spelling mistake which I've updated to required. And then the problem is that that we are not actually waiting for DB to be connected successfully to our Mongo Atlas. Okay, so it's actually working asynchronously. This Mongo connect function is not completing its operation, and this log is not being printed. So we are actually triggering the whole code below this before the DB connection is getting successful here. Okay, so for testing for now, what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to copy this whole code and paste it inside that then function. Okay, after our DB connection is successful. So here I have pasted all the code which I wrote outside this then function. Then now if I will be saving this and let me run the server now, it will be waiting for the DB connection to be successfully created, and then it will start processing, creating the schema, creating the model out of it, and then adding a new node. Okay, so now you can see that first the DB connection is successful, and then it's printing this data, and this data is being printed from here. So it means that this data is being saved successfully along with the ID which is it has generated itself, and it is actually created this date by itself because we gave the default value to it over here. Okay, and then it has given this underscore underscore v equals to 0. This is by default added to it. Now let's go and check our Mongo Atlas database. So I'm just going to refresh this page, this particular database, and now you can see that this data is coming from our code and it has been created successfully, right? And for this video, let me move this code from here to another file. So for this, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to name these folders models, and this model I'm going to call it node model.js, right? So now I'm going to cut this schema as well as this model which I have created, and then I'm going to export this. So module.exports equals to node, and it requires Mongoose, so I'm just going to import the Mongoose just like I added in other files. So require Mongoose, right? So in this file, this is pretty much it we have to do, and later on in upcoming videos we will be adding some more properties to each of these attributes, right? And from here I'm just going to remove this whole code. This was just for testing the save, creating a new model, and then adding a new data. So just to keep it look nicer, I'm also going to remove this as well. This was just for reference. So this file is clean now, and we have moved all the code from server.js file in the node model.js. And final thing for this video is that we need to go to our controller, nodes controller, and here we can import that new model that we have created. So to actually get it, so I'm going to grab it, so require and then models node model, right? And in the next video I'll be updating all these controllers, and rather than fetching the data from this nodes.json file, I will be creating, fetching, updating and deleting the data from the actual MongoDB database, and this code will be looking a lot cleaner than this. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe my channel. See you in the next video.